Hey there guys, welcome to another Commander deck breakdown. Today I will be going over my Indominus Rex Alpha deck. Um, so if you can tell, I am mainly a tribal deck player. I find it to be very fun and entertaining. Indominus Rex is actually part of a Voltron deck. It's my first time constructing one. It did take quite a bit of time for me to kind of figure out how I wanted to go with this. So let's just get right into it. Indominus Rex 6/6. A lot of reading here. As Indominus Rex Alpha enters the battlefield, discard any number of creature cards. It enters with a flying counter on it if the card discarded this way has flying. The same is true for First Strike, Double Strike, Death Touch, Hexproof, Haste, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace, Reach, Trample, and Vigilance. When he enters the battlefield, draw a card for each counter on it. So clearly, this just screams Voltron. But I took a little bit of a different approach to it. It is a Voltron deck, but I also kind of incorporating it to be a reanimate deck, if that makes sense, and you'll see why soon. Again, this is not the perfect deck. I do not think this is gold standard, but this is the deck that I've decided to roll with, and I actually just completed it the other day. As of uploading this. So it is fairly new. I haven't had the chance to play with it, but I am very excited to play with it. And of course, it was the first non-tribal deck I decided to create. And you will see soon enough that the other non-tribal deck that I've created is a Super Friends deck. Pretty much everything else I've done is a tribal deck. So getting into it, lands are very, very simple right now. 10 forest, 10 island, 10 swamp, uh, Bajuka Bog, Command Tower, Opal Palace, Polluted Delta, Temple of the False God. This is very raw in the land department. It will get better in time, but we'll get there when we get there. As far as the artifacts go, um, this is the first time I'm dipping more into the um, equipment. Usually I only use like one or two. Obviously, as a Voltron deck, I put in a little bit more. So actually, I did purchase the Secret Lair Assassin's Creed equip cards. So Blade of Sleeves, Conqueror's Flail, Darksteel Plate, Death Render, and Whisper Silk Cloak are all from that series. Foil, all do a bunch of different things. Obviously, the basic one, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet. Mjolnir is in here from Assassin's Creed. This went in by the recommendation of actually my nephew, and I'm pretty stoked to see how this goes. So when he enters the battlefield, attach it to target legendary creature you control. Whenever equipped creature attacks, tap target creature defending players controlled and put a stun counter on it. Then Mjolnir deals damage equal to each opponent equal to the number of tapped creatures that opponent controls. So this is going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing it. The Skullspore Nexus. This spell costs X colorless to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Whenever one or more non-token creatures you control die, create a green fungus dinosaur creature token with base power and toughness, each equal to the total power of those creatures. Two colorless and tap it. Double target creature's power until end of turn. So that's a pretty fun legendary artifact. We're going to see how that goes. With the enchantment, so some pretty basic stuff here. Garruk's Uprising. When he enters, if you control a creature of power 4 or greater, draw a card. Creatures you control have trample, and then whenever a creature you control of power 4 or greater enters, draw a card. Monstrous Vortex, covered that in the Pantlaza deck. And this is where we start to get into more of the reanimating part of it. So Oversold Cemetery, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 4 more creature cards in your graveyard, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Unnatural Growth is actually I got this from my brother-in-law. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until the end of the turn. And then Virtue of Persistence. Also, Lochthwain Scorn, mainly doing this for the Virtue of Persistence, which is at the beginning of your upkeep, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. If I wanted to do the sorcery side of it, it's target creature gets -3 until end of turn, and I gain 2 life. Instance, cancel, Doomblade, Fierce Guardianship, a lot of a couple good counters, some cheaper end stuff, Gift of the Viper, Shadow of the Grave, return to your hand all cards in your graveyard that you cycled or discarded this turn, which is really great when after casting Indominus Rex. I could basically get everything back. So I'm pretty stoked to see how that goes. Ever After, return up to 2 target creature cards from a graveyard to the battlefield. Each of those creatures is a black zombie in addition to its other colors and types, and put Ever After on the bottom of its owner's library. Flare of Cultivation. You may sacrifice a non-token green creature rather than pay this spell's mana cost. Search your library for 2 basic land cards, reveal them, put one on the battlefield tap, the other one in your hand. Again, a bit more reanimate, literally reanimate. Persist, Rise of the Dark Realms, Rishkar's Expertise. I'm actually looking forward to this one. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. You may cast a spell with mana value 5 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. So I'm curious to see how that's going to go. And then there's Victimize. Choose 2 target creature cards in your graveyard. Sacrifice a creature. If you do, return those chosen cards to the battlefield tapped. So again, a lot of reanimating. That way, I'm kind of cheating the system here. Being able to cast Indominus Rex whilst also still not having a totally empty battlefield. So as you could probably guess, a lot of these creatures have those abilities, or those counters, flying, double strike, trample, whatever the case. What I tried to do is I tried to pick creatures that had more than one ability, and then trying to keep it pretty even with the cost of it. If I couldn't get Indominus Rex, I didn't want to have a whole lot of big creatures. I wanted to have a nice little mix. So there's stuff like Banehound, Lifelink, and Haste, Birds of Paradise, Flying, add 1 mana of any color. So stuff like Birds of Paradise, Poison Dart Frog, stuff like that. I'm trying to, while I'll try not to use those towards the Indominus, I want to kind of just have them out there to be able to have more mana, more ability. Cresting Mosasaur also has an emerge cost, but its main ability is when it enters the battlefield, if I cast it, return each non-dinosaur creature to its owner's hand. Since this is not tribal, obviously that does well for me. Again, haven't been able to play it, so we're going to see how this goes. Dalek Drone, Flying and Menace with Exterminate. When he enters the battlefield, destroy target creature an opponent controls. That player loses 3 life. So again, more options. Galewind Moose, Vigilance, Reach, and Trample. Good card to have. Grim Giganotosaurus. I have this card in another tribal deck. I'm actually really forward to see how it looks in this Voltron deck, but it does have Monstrosity 10, and it costs 1 less to activate for each creature with power 4 or greater my opponent's control, which works out really well when John, the other member of this channel, he uses that all green deck, and he has a bunch of tokens that he beefs up. It actually really works out pretty well. And then when he becomes monstrous, destroy all artifacts and creatures other than him. So I have one off of him before. Again, it's not something that everybody enjoys, but I do it. So that's why it's there. Gurmig Swiftwing, Flying, First Strike, Haste. Hulking Raptor, Ward 2 at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add 2 Forest. That's again, trying to make things a little bit quicker. Ian, Convalescent Charmer, which is actually Tazager, the Golden Fang, which has Delve, pay 2 colorless, and then either 2 green, 2 blue, or one or the other. Mill 2 cards, then return a non-land card of an opponent's choice from your graveyard to your hand. I'm not too sure how this is going to turn out. I'm pretty curious, but we're gonna see. I mainly liked it for the artwork. And then we have Junji the Midnight Sky, Kyrie the Swirling Sky, Korra the Boundless Sky, all do a little bit of something to it. Let's see, what do we else do we have here? Oh, Railway Brawler, reach and trample. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under my control, put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is its power. So, good things with that. The Mimeoplasm. I'm actually really curious to see how this is going to go. It is a 0/0, but he enters the battlefield. I may exile 2 creature card from graveyards. And here's the thing, it doesn't need to be mine. If I do, it enters the battlefield as a copy of one of those cards with a number of additional +1/+1 counters on it, equal to the power of the other card. So I'm really excited for this card. I can't wait to see what it's going to do. Thrashta Tempest Roar. It's a 7/7. It costs 3 less to cast for each other spell cast this turn. Again, this is kind of why I try to keep everything cheap to make multiple things happen. Trample haste, trample over planeswalkers, and he has hexproof as long as they enter the battlefield this turn. Tower Winder, nothing super special. Has reach and death touch. But if he enters the battlefield, I get to search my library or graveyard for command tower. So, kind of see how that's all gonna go. Vampire Nighthawk, Nighthawk, flying, death touch, lifelink. There's actually another card that I skipped over. Oh yeah, Triplicate Titan, flying, vigilance, trample. When he dies, I create a 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature token with flying, a 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature token with vigilance, and another 3/3 with trample. So I'm pretty curious how that's going to go, especially if I want to sacrifice it. I know I can still get something for it. So yeah, we're gonna see how that works. And then Wilson Refined Grizzly. I don't know why, but everyone said to put this in there. So I'm well, I do know why actually, but I don't know why that was the card that came up so much. I don't know. It's funny to me, but low cost. It can't be countered with Vigilance, Reach, and Trample, and War 2, and then you choose a background. So you can have a background as a second commander. I think more people thought that this is kind of the card I was looking at for Voltron when I was talking about it, but regardless, it's a good card. We'll see what happens with it. And as you can see, mana curve is 3.8 average. It's one of the lower mana curves that I do have, so I'm pretty excited about that. And then depending on where you get the cards from, it could either be 398 like from TCG Player or 269 from Card Kingdom. There's a couple other places right here. $100 if you're doing printing proxies. I don't do proxies at all. But yeah, so this is the Voltron deck, and just going over some of the highlights of the deck. Again, I have not yet been able to play with it yet. I'm super excited to play with it though. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes, but I think this deck has been constructed pretty well, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Catch you on the next one.